So it's important that you see the further out a planet is, the less personal, intimate, less we can see about it, less we have to work with, but it still has its presence. So it's okay not to have an exact factor. You can't say, oh, your truth and consequences is just exactly this. No, it's a presence that insidiously works its way in. There's a certain fear, a certain block, a certain confrontation, a certain nerve that is where each of the outer planets are that affect how everything else works. And if you do everything right according to your inner planets and according to Saturn, Mars, Jupiter, and your things, you'll live a good life in the middle of whatever it is. So when we have our 4 seasons, daylight increasing, daylight is greater, springtime, Pluto's there, there's going to be a need to have to push your own way no matter what and do it more, and there's going to be a fighting about anybody who's fighting against that. It's not going to see it socially, it's going to be blatant about how I want to live. Kind of in the same way that the world may have got rid of the caliphate of ISIS over the past little while, but they haven't got rid of the doctrine or the religious belief or the followers of ISIS. So there's still some individual influence to be fought out there. Okay, when it's in the summer sign, the nighttime's increasing, daylight's greater, it's still my home, my kids, my work, my skills. It's still the power struggles to have my own world and to have a place where I can rest or relax in. So the responsibilities are increasing. If you got a home, you got to pay taxes. If you got kids, you got to go to school. If you got work, you got to work for an employer. So all of this area of the summer sign becomes harsh. Pluto, Leo, Virgo becomes a harsher factor for Pluto in those signs. In Libra, Scorpio, and Sag, the harshness is around relationships. What's fair, what's not? The truth, what's the truth? And in Capricorn, of course, in the winter, it's about the organizations and the teamwork and the responsibilities and the obligations to have to take care of it. Just like it's difficult to get by in the winter. When Pluto's there, it really is. But there is a consensus of teamwork, what you have to do to be part of the group. And more rules and regulations come in at that time. And with Pluto there, they'll be forced in. There'll be a fear of them, but there'll be a power struggle around them, and they'll be fought for. So once you start with this general generational attitude, and it's there, once you've picked up this attitude of fear of belonging, or fear of my own self, or fear of doing my own thing, or having to kind of fight for my own thing, or what's the truth of what group I'm in or where I am, whoa. Right now, just about if anyone says, how is the world supposed to be run? No one trusts a country to run it. No one's going to trust a religious group because each religious group looks extreme and wants to run it, but not everybody's going to agree with it. And, you're going to let corporations run it, which they're doing, but not everybody wants that either. So there's this, who's running it? What groups are there? How does this play out? The Pluto in Capricorn means power to the groups, power to the consensus. So that's very different than the spring and summer, where it's power to the individual and threat from the consensus. Here, it's power to the consensus and a threat to the individual. Individuality. How does the individuality maintain itself in marriage? Well, this is abuse, that's not abuse. Boy, you're tiptoeing. Around Scorpio, you've got AIDS, trusting, touching, and in Sag, like even religions, like they've been attacked so much. There's so many dissing of things, of group things, and there's groups pushing this to develop a consensus of what's real or what's not real. Should everyone have to get should every kid in school have to get their shots? Not everybody believes that it's good for someone to have a vaccination. But then the group doesn't want someone without a vaccination to be near their kids when they could get it. Give them something, even though they're getting the vaccination. So, like, this is these plays of storms and fears. It's almost like Pluto's the newscast of whatever day, whatever time you're looking at. But when it's in the masculine signs, those fears are going to be projected and pushed out. Those confrontations, those struggles for truth, that loss of innocence, that fight to find out what's true. I know what's true, I'm going to fight for it. I don't know what's true, I got to fight for it. It's going to be pushed out and projected. Really subliminally, but it's still going to be instigated and pushed out. People with Pluto and Aries and Gemini push their ideas. Pluto and Leo push how good they are, push the education. Pluto and Leo push the marriage. Pluto and Sag push the understanding of the World Wide Web, push the connections with everyone. Pluto and Aquarius push the knowledge or fight for it. You can see it coming. It won't be long before, already got great translators. It won't be long. I've even seen people have headsets that can, while they're talking, they can talk in English, but be here or talking out, and they can hear what the other person's saying from Mandarin translated back to your own language. And so you can speak it back. It's quite incredible. So that's forcing what's knowledge, what's valid. It's changing as all the knowledges come together. Nighttime is greater half with the Pluto going to be going from Capricorn into Aquarius. So right now we have controls from government. When Pluto goes into Aquarius, there'll be controls over censorship, over what knowledge is true. But it'll be projected out. Individuals are projecting their knowledge, their power, and their fears. I mean, it's an interesting thing today where we have this, what's real news? I mean, what was ever real news? I mean, we don't get anything true. Whoever got anything exactly true in the news? 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, whoever knew? Now we're getting so much information, most of it's distorted, almost all of it has its own bias, its own take, it's not exactly the news. How could you find that person who could write true news, whatever that is? But it's obvious what to believe and where not, where to risk, where not. It's a stronger issue coming up. But Pluto in Capricorn now, Pluto in Scorpio when there was AIDS, Pluto in Virgo, Pluto in Cancer, Pluto in Taurus, Pluto in Pisces, is reflective. So these are people who are going to make judgments around the Pluto and take it in. They're going to reflect on what's true or not true out there and take it in and adjust their life accordingly. So they'll implode with that power struggle or that fear. They'll hold it inside. They'll become personalized. They'll be reflected, introverted. Whereas in the masculine signs, it's projected outwardly. Sounds like it's hard to make sense of this because we have such a vague sense of Pluto. But as you're working with someone charts, and when you start to see the Pluto in the house and the aspects, you start to see Pluto's hitting something, you can back up and you can see this generational influence insidiously. It's there. It's just beneath what you can see clearly, but you can sense it completely. Okay. Okay, we did the seasons. Okay, when we get to the modes, I mean, usually when you read about Pluto, you're going to see planet of confrontation, power struggles, fears, and blocks. And it'll be usually interpreted in the houses it's in. But usually, really, you see, if you're looking at Pluto, challenges the effects of the sign that it's in. It does, but really it's working the other way, but still we will see it like that. Pluto and Libra, confrontation around relationships. What's real, what's true relationship, what's marriage, what's not marriage, what's divorce, what's not divorce. Those rates really went up with that generation. But you could see it affecting the sign. Then you have to expand and say, well, the whole generation with Pluto and Libra has that. So each individual person inside it is working inside of that generational factor of 10, 20 years with this specific fear. You know, like 100 years ago, someone might have been afraid of not having a home, of leaving their home and not having a home, so they get married to have a home or to have kids. But Pluto and Libra generation, why stay with someone you don't like? It's breaking up and there's a harshness around marriage and more divorces now than ever. and new kinds of marriages that not everyone agrees with. So it's when we get to, well, now we're going to the modes. So we're going into the cardinal, fixed, and mutable. These we're going to see very distinctly too. Pluto in a cardinal sign, it's going to be pushed. It's going to be a dynamic drive. So that generation is going to drive to make their point, to force it. And they'll either drive to make a fear, or drive to get power, or drive to use it. They're going to push to use it. Of course, in the 4 different ways. There's a different element for each of these modes. So Aries, Pluto in Aries is really power struggles and confrontations and fights. It's about power and the fear of power. Well, it doesn't take long before you get many visions of what that could be. But when it's an individual, they're going to have that over control or fear of control. And there'll be power struggles and challenges that affect the Pluto in Aries. So we don't have that now, and they're not alive right now. So that's not in play in the world right now. But Pluto in Cancer, some of those are still alive, not many. People in their late 90s and 100s, the old generation who fought through the 2 wars, and in the First World War, Second World War. I'm looking from the European or American point of view, Canadian point of view. But the fear was around home and security. So our homeland could be threatened by Germany was fighting Europe and taking over other people's homeland. They were trying to expand their homeland. Other people were trying to protect their homeland. And there was a fight over the home, over security. And that fear was very pronounced. So long term, so everybody born that went through a war, they have scars about it. Anyone living in France? Anyways, this just, there's going to be a drive around power and energy about being able to do things. That means make a plan, build a kind of thing. It doesn't matter if it's pollution. Don't tell me what I can or can't do. But really, the Pluto in Aries is a very military type time too. So you're seeing your struggle personally, but you also see the powers that be will have those struggles too. So is the government, Saturn, really in charge of the army and its power? Not in a lot of countries. Sometimes the army is in charge of the government. But Pluto in Cancer, it's about personal security, about the home, the fear of the home, the fear of personal security, the fear of mom, the need to have home, the need to be it. So it can be, and it's reflected, but it's going to be pushed out. That need, I've got to have a place, I've got to have this, I've got to be able to do this. It's going to be pushed out, whether it's a personal fear or an outer power struggle to get more secure, to have property and things. There'll be very powerful struggle for food, for nurturing. So we look ahead 100 years, people are going to be really struggling for food and nutrition. The things we're seeing now as a problem are going to be huge in 100 years. That's beyond the scale of when all the ice is melted on the poles and when everything's changed. Life will still be going on, but there'll be different types of controls. But the last Pluto one, Pluto in Cancer, that was going through the First World War and the security, what was secure, who fought, who didn't fight. They were all really personal issues, but there was a fear, got to have a home. So by the time the Second World War came through and on, when it finished, these people wanted to have their home. They wanted to get back and have peace. They brought up the consumer society. So then when Pluto's in Libra, again, we talked about it. So the fear of home, paying too much taxes, having your home taken away, getting us in China. You could have a home, a little home, and the government can decide to build an apartment out and you have to move. Boom, done. Nobody owns land in China. They get leases. Even the big high-rises are leased. The condos are leased. They own the condo, but not the land itself. But it's not that much different than here too. So you got to remember these things are going on all around the world. It's not just in your neighborhood. You're seeing it from your neighborhood, from the people you meet. The Pluto and Libra generation, that's alive and now, because that's from 1970 up to 80.